Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The site that I chose for the purposes of this assignment is Camden in South Carolina. Now, the Battle of Camden was fought here where American forces were beaten by the British as American militia that was fighting were pushed back by British regular forces under General Cornwallis. Eventually, General Gates was relieved of command after this. General de Kalb, who was a Prussian fighting under American forces, under American flag, he was killed in action. This battle was a debacle. However, one of the positive aspects was a change of command to General Greene, who made much more tactically wise and sound battlefield judgments in the future for American forces. Now, the preservation of the Battle of Camden site itself as a battlefield and as a historic town is broken up into two different components. The Historic Camden Society, it takes care of the actual grounds of Camden, and then the American Battlefield Trust is one of the other organizations seeking to preserve more land for this specific site, as well as other American Revolutionary War sites. Now, the preservation of sites of battle and historic cities of the American Revolution and subsequent American conflicts show you just how significant public history is in formation of American citizenry, in us knowing our history in order for us to progress into the future. Now, I've chosen a couple of routes for this particular assignment. And the specific route I'm choosing is a teaching lesson plan where students will have a presentation, about a 30 to 40 minute informational presentation on the Battle of Camden, the five W's: who, what, when, where, and why, followed by a battlefield visit. So I will be coordinating transportation for students to go to the actual battle site. That way they can physically see the battlefield that they learned about in that period of instruction previously. One of the primary sources that I'm going to have students analyze during that period of instruction is going to be Thomas Jefferson's letter describing the actual battle. Now, I want students to glean from this the fog of war, in that there was not really a clear idea of how many American troops were on the ground versus the British. So this is one aspect I want them to see. Another aspect I want them to see is just how bogged down American forces were under General Gates, in that he carried so much equipment with him. I want students to see that maybe not having so much equipment, and other personal effects may slow down the battle for them. So that's one thing I want them to see. Now, in terms of the actual anniversary of the Battle of Camden, this year was a 240-year anniversary of the Battle of Camden. But due to COVID-19, as other things, it was actually shortened. So they didn't have the full presentation of the cannons and whatnot. So that is one thing that I think is kind of sad. However, students can see a digital presentation of the Battle of Camden and also do tours now. Granted, they're maintaining their 6 feet of distance and whatnot. Um, so for the Battle of Camden, a couple of aspects went into it being designated a historic landmark and also a national park. And one of the criteria was it had to be of national significance. And with its designation as a National Historic Landmark, this definitely met the criteria. The second aspect was suitability. So the National Park Service and the Secretary of the Interior asked, what are the natural, cultural, and recreational themes that the Camden site offers in our history? And as we can clearly see from this specific battle, and also the decisions made before and after, show you just how significant this battle was during the American Revolutionary War. Feasibility. So they're looking at long-term protection of the resources and public usage of it. So for example, when we think about long-term protection, we have to think about the possibility of the land being taken away to develop suburban tract housing. So, what is being implemented or put in place to ensure that the battlefield site is protected and that it's being used for the public good? And the last was the need for national public park management, which was the best overall choice in terms of cost and other logistics associated with it. So I do want to implement this lesson plan. It's very complicated. However, I think it's very feasible and it allows students to become active citizenry in participating in the consumption of public history. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's a little bit long, but please let me know what you think. I appreciate your feedback. God bless.